And let's talk about Kanye. So yesterday we talked about how there was a couple of sponsors that had dropped out of the wireless festival. We even addressed the fact that, when I was giving all my what my overall thoughts and breaking down all the facts, that even they said he was going to be having trouble getting a visa to travel over to the UK to perform over there. So now, because of everything that's been going on and his visa has been denied, it looks like they had canceled the this festival over in the UK, where they only had Kanye as the headliner for all three shows instead of having other people to co-headline or to back it up. But I guess they were relying solely on the controversy, because you already heard that he sold out both nights at the SoFi Stadium in California, where they're saying he grossed between 30 to $35 million in his own pocket for both nights. And there's no proof of this. This is what people are literally saying. We haven't seen the data. I haven't seen any confirmed stuff from any reliable sources that have said that this is what he's made. And you've seen people immediately jumping online and being like, well, he don't need these sponsors. Blah, 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 blah. He made all this money in 2 nights. And I'm like, first of all, y'all are not his accountants. You don't even know if that number is accurate. This is just a number that's been thrown out there, and people are just running with it because they want to justify the idea of, yeah, Kanye is controversial. Yeah, they love the fact that y'all love old Kanye. And don't get me wrong, I love old Kanye too. But this new Kanye, first of all, he's been doing way too many things in order to get attention. And I even saw recently what David Schwimmer jumped on social media. Y'all know Ross Geller from Friends jumped on social media and was saying, like, because I know some people are like, well, what does he need to do to get in the good graces of people? He said all this stuff recent, like a year ago, and all of a sudden all is forgiven. And I saw people were bringing up that, well, how come Chrisette Michelle got dragged and Chili got dragged and all this other stuff? And I think the reason, and I've been thinking about this a lot too, and I'll get to this story that I saw that Variety did that breaks it down a lot more, which I'm like, okay, now I thought about it, but I'm like, it's good to have confirmation when you get it from like reliable sources and stuff instead of just me and my own brain and my own thoughts. Although my brain has never steered me wrong yet. Um, I think it's because Kanye still has a predominantly large fan base. People still love his classics. He has a lot of great songs. Yes, he's known as a genius, if you want to call it that. And I think people were still holding on to what was instead of accepting who he is and what he is. And David Schwimmer says that he doesn't feel like he's done the work. And I feel like if you're going to go in and you're going to say all these anti-Semitic things or whatever the case is, then it's like you have to really go in and show people that you have changed. You can't just say, "Oh, I've changed and I want to meet with a couple of Jewish organizers and all this other stuff in order for them to see I've changed, and please let me perform at this venue and make this money." And it's like, but then the next day, all of a sudden, you have this bipolar rant that you're gonna blame your anti-Semitism on, and probably again, or I got hit up, I slipped and fell, and all of a sudden I became a racist. You know how a lot of people like to just make 1,001 excuses instead of just accepting the fact that no, you're just an asshole or you're just a bigot. People aren't born bigots. They're radicalized into believing those things via, if it's around you in your childhood and you ain't really been around no damn body. So you just think of that because it's your parents and you trust them, that this is the way the world is and this is the world view, until you actually step out into the real world and you see the world for what it really is. And then some people have a change in ideology, or some people choose to live with that bigoted fear that they've been fear-mongered into by family, by watching things on social media. Because that's another thing too. There's a lot of young people are getting radicalized because parents are not really paying attention to what their children are paying attention to, be it on social media or whatever it is that they're watching. So they're sitting around here watching all these groypers and all these other people on social media that are just spewing all kinds of male machismo, gym, UFC bullshit. And then a lot of these young people are being radicalized and believing this. The future of Nick Fuentes of the world, basically. So, to get into the article, BBC says that the government refused permission for West, now known as Ye, to travel to the UK after backlash to his planned set at the London Festival this summer. Excuse me. For the last several years, West has caused outrage for a string of anti Semitic, racist, and pro Nazi comments. In a statement, Wireless Festival said the Home Office has withdrawn Ye's ETA, denying him entry into the United Kingdom. As a result, Wireless Festival is canceled and refunds will be issued to all ticket holders. Now, I posted their actual post on my social media, and some person said that they thought it was that's got to be a lie or AI or whatever. I'm like, how is it an AI or whatever the case is when it's literally what the organization said? Google is your friend sometimes when people just be outlandishly just saying bullshit on social media. Look it up. Google is free. Type it in, look up the sources, read it for yourself if you're not going to take my word for it. And this is from the BBC. You can't get no more legitimate than the BBC for the most part. Now, they went on to continue by saying, as with every wireless festival, multiple stakeholders were consulted in advance of booking Ye, and no concerns were highlighted at the time. Which is literally what I said. I said, but wait a minute. Now, if y'all spoke to the people in advance and let them know that y'all were booking Kanye, why all of a sudden, when we getting close to the situation that everybody's outraged and everybody's upset? That doesn't make sense to me. Because I'm sitting there like, y'all were aware of this. You knew how controversial he is. You known of some of the things that he says, but now all of a sudden, because this whole thing is being announced, oh, I'm backing out and I'm doing this, and it just feels fake and it feels performative to me. And I just think at this point, maybe he is too big, and people are willing to just continue to support him regardless. So they said anti-Semitism in all forms is abhorrent, and we recognize the real and personal impact these issues have had. As Kanye said today, he acknowledges that words alone are not enough, and in spite of this, still hopes to be given the opportunity to begin a conversation with the Jewish community in the UK. Well, clearly they didn't care; they didn't want to hear it, and then now we are where we are at this point. Now, pre-sale tickets for Wireless Festival were released in midday on Tuesday and are believed to have sold out, while the general sale was due to open in midday on Wednesday. So when they wrote this, which I saw this was this morning when I read this article. Wait, hold on. Let me check to see when exactly the date of this story was written. Oh yeah, 2 hours ago. So tickets went on sale. Well, I guess they're way ahead of us over in the UK. So, because I think it might be, if I'm not mistaken, because it's Tuesday here, it might be Wednesday over there. I know they're way a couple of hours in advance. I mean, ahead of us. I don't know how many hours, but I know they're ahead of us. But so they released the tickets on Tuesday, which today is Tuesday in the US, and then they were going to release it to the general public on Wednesday, and then now they come to this conclusion. So it just goes to show that the Wireless Festival, y'all were just messy for this. I feel like y'all were sloppy, y'all were unorganized, and now I wouldn't even, I would never give y'all money after the way y'all just handled this whole situation. So earlier on Tuesday, they said the Home Office told the BBC the rapper had made an application to travel to UK on Monday via an electronic travel authorization, sorry, which is called ETA. It said the decision to refuse permission was made on the grounds that his presence would not be conducive to the public good. Visitors to the UK need an ETA if they do not need a visa for short stays or up to 6 months, or do not already have a UK immigration status. Now, responding to the cancellation of Wireless and the festival's latest statement, a spokesman for Campaign Against Anti-Semitism said, with no headliner and multiple sponsors dropping out, Wireless has had to cancel the festival, which was dumb on their part because you should have had a backup. What is it that everybody else was busy performing at Coachella? You couldn't pull somebody to get a couple of people on the festival? They said, now, how did it come to this? Apparently, no concerns were highlighted about Kanye West at the time of the booking. Who were they consulting? A wall? That's what happens when the only shareholders you speak to are those who stand to make a profit. And that goes to show this is a problem that you're confining yourselves to a bunch of stakeholders who are saying, oh, yeah, let's put all our eggs in one basket on one person. And not realizing that while, yes, he does have a hardcore fan base that will come out and support him, there's a larger part of the world who's going to be like, you know what? I don't, you're going to try to find a way to fuck up his bag. And he has no one to blame, and there's no one to blame for this but Kanye. If he wasn't running around here saying all this ignorant stuff, knowing full on well that if you can dish your own people, Black people will be forgiven with that, which is sad and unfortunate. The fact that y'all think so highly of yourselves that he could sit and say slavery was a choice, and all the others still go buy a damn ticket to see him at the SoFi Stadium or wherever he's performing at. But let him say something that is deemed anti-Semitic. They will come together like Voltron collectively, and they will find a way to ruin every aspect of any kind of comeback you plan on having. And then that's why I was saying before why a lot of times Jewish people get mad because there's this stereotype that looms over them that they rule a lot of powerful situations, which for the most part is not true, but in certain situations it is true in certain type of situations. So when the stereotype becomes the thing, and there's always a little truth to a stereotype. I'm not saying there's all the truth, but there's always a little truth in a little stereotype. Then this is where we are with this situation. So it's like, yeah, they're not forgiving him. You was running around here, you wrote a song called How Hitler, you were selling Nazi imagery on your damn website, and you're wondering why the Jewish community hasn't forgiven you for because it's like, oh, you post a whole little long ass, long-winded Trumpian letter on social media and you think all is forgiven? You got to do more than that. You need to tap dance like Nick Cannon. That's what you need to do. So then they went on to because this is a long ass article and I don't want to go through the whole thing, but they did say this. They said that Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said on Tuesday Kanye West should never have been invited to Headline Wireless. This government stands firmly with the Jewish community, and we will not stop in our fight to confront and defeat the poison of anti Semitism. We will always take the action necessary to protect the public and uphold our values. Now, Health Secretary West Streeting expressed similar sentiments earlier, calling West's apology mealy mouthed and self serving, and accusing Wireless of offering the rapper a fig leaf of credibility. And the funny part about this isn't the first time he said something anti-Semitic and then did an apology and then went off and went and did a whole nother rant again and said a whole bunch of more crazy stuff and then did another apology. That's the second time he's done this. So it's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me right. And to fool me twice, you a dumbass bitch. So why it makes I'm not mad at the Jewish community for not forgiving him if he hasn't done the work. And if because they always say when people show you who they are, believe you the first time. And if you're willing to make a change and change your ways and all this other stuff, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But when you show your entire ass more than once, then it's like, yeah, I'm side eyeing you. I'm not taking anything you say seriously anymore. Meaning, seriously, like I'm not going to trust you. I'm not saying I'm not going to take you serious because if you're saying something as ignorant as what you said about black people and what you said about Jewish people, I'm definitely taking you seriously on that. You can't go from George Bush don't care about black people to be in slavery as a choice and making anti-Semitic comments. That just makes no sense to me. It just makes me wonder, what is your end game? So then they said if he wants forgiveness, it's not my forgiveness he needs. This is what Streeting told Radio 4. It's the forgiveness of the Jewish communities, and I don't think he's done anything to earn it, which is literally what David Schwimmer said in a separate post that I saw floating around online. I don't know if it was an interview or article, or whatever, but I did see that he had said something to this fact. Now, Home Security, Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phillips said West is guilty of appalling anti-Semitic and pro-Nazi comments, and we might have to change that. Not we'll call it Yahtzee. Rhymes with Yahtzee. Pro rhymes with Yahtzee comments and urged Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood to use her powers under the Immigration Act to refuse him a visa. Now, Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey had also called for West to be banned from entering the UK, while Reform UK leader Nigel Farage said, "Personally, I wouldn't buy a ticket." Now, meanwhile, fans of the Trackers have been getting in touch with the BBC to voice their views. One fan, Courtney, said, I bought my ticket in the PayPal pre-sale 3 to 4 days ago. I have looked at flights and accommodation, but my friend, she's been a big Kanye West fan since she was about 13, and she just bought her ticket this morning. Okay, well, Well, how old is she today? Because, ma'am, the Kanye that you knew at 13 is not the Kanye that you know at 25. Now, another person said, I was really disappointed. Everything that's going on in the UK at the moment when it comes to free speech is absolutely ridiculous. Well, it's free speech, but you also have to. This is what kills me with y'all with the free speech shit. Y'all just think that free speech is you can just say whatever the hell you want to say without consequence. You do know that there's consequences to actions. Now, why do you think the John Wick franchise was as big as it was? There's cause and effect, which is from the Matrix, philosophy, sociology. Every action has a reaction. So when you say something that is bigoted and is geared towards harming a community of people, be it your own people, black folks, or Jewish people, they have a right to feel how they feel if you're going to go and say something remotely anti Semitic or if you're going to say something remotely racist against your own people. You can't cloak that under freedom of speech. There's a difference with that. But I think a lot of people just hear freedom of speech. They know them three words and they think that's just going to be enough, that they could just go off and say whatever the hell it is that they want to say. Now, another by the name of Daniel described himself as a very self-aware fan. They said, "I know that that what he said is definitely not okay, but I feel that people should vote with their money, and if people didn't agree with what he said, then they shouldn't buy tickets." So, are you saying that if somebody goes and buys a ticket to a Kanye West concert, that you're automatically a Nazi? Oh, I forgot. We're supposed to change the name. Yahtzee? Is that what you're implying? Because I don't think you understand the difference. But I do agree with the fact that if you are not a Kanye fan, if you like old Kanye, but you don't like new Kanye, and you don't like all the things that he's been said, you don't know where all this radicalization comes from. Like, is it because you were radicalized? Is it because now once you get to a certain tax bracket, a lot of y'all a lot of you Negroes like to show your entire ass? Like LeBron James tap dancing in front of white people and throwing black folks under the bus. There's a video all about that. Look that up. Recently, or when you have Nicki Minaj coming out and saying some of the things that she said against the community, and it's like once you and Stephen A. Smith, who don't know dick about politics, jumping in the political pool and thinking he knows that okay, if you become senator, you get voted in. I'm like, what? You don't know the shit about politics, and you literally be showing how uneducated you are in politics whenever you open your mouth. It's just ridiculous, but they love it. They love somebody that's good at the tap dancing, and that's what he does. So for a check. So once it's like once you hit a certain tax bracket, that's what it just seems like it is to me. That all of a sudden you lose all sense of logic and reason. Now they said the government stepping in completely breaks the fact that people should be able to vote with their money. And like I said, at the end of the day, like I love old Kanye, new Kanye, I don't particularly care for. I'm not listening to Bully. I don't give a good goddamn about all this other stuff. It's just like I'm just too awakened with to be trying to even entertain the bullshit. Like I feel like I've outgrown all of that mess, and I feel like that I've just such low tolerance for stupidity and dumb bullshit that people say that I can't just oh yeah, oh, I'm so curious that I got to listen to what Kanye. I don't give a fuck what he's saying. I really don't. But if y'all still want to enjoy him, that's your business. That's your prerogative. You go stream him 8 million times on Spotify and Apple Music. You go and pay money to his concerts. I'm not doing that. I got way more better things that I want to spend my money on, but I'm not going to tell other people how to spend their money. But you have to realize these corporations and these other people who are the hires up have a right to be like, we don't want this problematic human being performing in our situations. They have a right to do that. And y'all just be mad. Or better yet, watch old clips of him on YouTube, watch live concerts of him on YouTube, or just stream Bully. Do that. That'll be as close as you get to see him perform as you can, unless he does another couple more nights at SoFi, and you can buy tickets to that and go jumping around like some 12-year-old, reliving your oats. So yeah, he's apologized, all that good stuff. But there was this one thing before we get up off this that I want to get to that I did read from Variety, where they talk about why the rehabilitation of Kanye West, what it says about America. And I was like, you had a point. So I'm gonna read a little bit of it. So it said it's hard not to imagine that for around 140,000 people, excuse me, over 2 nights. And I think it's because it was 60K every for 2 nights, which would be 140 because SoFi Stadium capacity is 60,000. Over 2 nights at LA SoFi Stadium last week, a sort of collective willful amnesia took place, as if the man on stage had never declared DEF CON 3 to Jewish people, had never said, I love Hitler, I'm a Yahtzee, Jews were better as slaves and slavery is a choice. Had never worn and sold t-shirts emblazoned with a rhymes with Gnostica. There was bald-headed ass, always late, Lauren Hill, Travis Scott, wide back ass CeeLo Green, and Don Tolliver joining the man. Kanye West, also known as Yee Yeezy, Yay Yay. Okay. On stage, there was Chloe Bailey, that dumb broad, who they were talking about how she was posting videos of herself singing along. And one of my friends said she be out here promoting Kanye, but she can't even promote her own shit. I did laugh when he said, it's like, bitch, you can't even out here promoting your music. Nobody's buying your stuff, but you up in here praising Kanye like he the second coming of Jesus. Now they went on and also said, apparently, at least for those who support for him and wavered, a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal was all it took to wipe the slate clean. For some, not all, because clearly you just saw that they canceled this concert. In January, West took out an ad in which he apologized for the above and other comments, blaming them on mental illness. Okay, and recently diagnosed head injury. So yeah, I could bash myself upside the head, and all of a sudden I'm gonna just start hating everybody. Further in the rehabilitation, his newish album "Bully," which blatantly has established record label as a partner, debuts at number 2 on the Billboard 200 album charts this week. Meanwhile, you got fake ass, that Instagram blog because they can't afford to even create their own website. The Neighborhood Talk had the unlitigated gall to go and spread a lie over on their channel and say he got the number 1 album in the country. First of all, shout out to the South Koreans because the person who got the number 1 album is BTS. So they're gonna sit up here and tell it correctly, and don't tell it where you try to write a whole paragraph in the headline, and that's where everybody only gets their tea instead of really understanding that yes, BTS got the number 1 album in America. This is the first album that Kanye has released that went straight to number 2. So if you're going to tell your story, y'all got to get up in here and tell it correctly. And that shit pisses me off when people be up in here just telling half truths because they want to get a certain base going. So now they said, how did he come back so quickly after so many years of divisive behavior and 3 years of hate speech? Yes, he made great music early in his career, which I'll be talking about. In fact, he is the most important and influential popular musician of this century. But without overstating the case, it's all part of a larger narrative about, and this is the part where I say, this is where I feel like it hits the nail on the head. But without overstating the case, it's all a part of a larger narrative about Donald Trump's America, where enough money, fame, and noise can enable a person to be absolved of virtually anything. So I truly believe that that is why Kanye is all of a sudden in everybody's good graces because he's rich, he has access to everything. He has enough money, he has enough fame, and because controversy, noise, all of that stuff. People live for all of this stuff. The whole algorithm hustling, the baiting, the rage baiting on social media. That's the thing now. That's the thing that gets algorithms jumping. It gets people all riled up. It gets the endorphins going. And I think that that is what is the root of this whole situation. In the current climate that we live in, because this is like a repeat, it's 2.0 of what we got during Trump's term, that when you have enough money, you have enough fame, and you make enough noise, we forget all the things, we excuse all the behavior, and they pull out the little flashlight thingy from Men in Black, put it in front of your face, all is forgotten, and everything is forgiven. And I truly believe that that's where we are. And that's why people are so willing to forgive Kanye for a lot of what he does. Now, he's got a lot more work to do, a lot more groveling that he's got to do in order to get back in good graces and prove to people that he has changed. And I always say you have to show it in your actions if you truly change as a person. You can't just take out a whole full page ad in a newspaper or a magazine or on social media and think that's enough. You have to do the work. And so he's going to have to tap dance a little harder to get in the good graces of these organizations and these Jewish folks. So I feel like that's all I got to say on that for now, but we'll keep her definitely abreast of this story as it develops because I'm sure there's going to be more coming out regarding this whole Kanye situation or if there's going to be any more fallout in the future regarding him trying to get back out there and perform in front of a live audience. But I definitely feel like, you know what? Regardless of how controversial and some of the certain things he said, people should be allowed to vote with their wallet whether or not they want to see the person perform. But I guess it depends on who owns these companies, these organizations, these venues. If they want to have someone like a Kanye West who has made controversial things, and if these people that own these buildings or these organizations or these arenas or certain venues happen to be Jewish and they don't like what he said, now you've affected your money and you've affected your situation because these people don't want you occupying their space. And they don't get all money ain't good money, I guess, when it comes to certain people and how crazy you go with your mouth and some of the things that you said and what you've written. So this is just going to be a fallout of, I guess, the repercussions of the things that you said. So I definitely want to hear from you all. What do you guys think of this story? Um, whatever you have to say on this, let me know in the comments down below.